Welcome to CYF Spotlight, presented by the Farmington Hills Farmington Commission on Children, Youth, and Families. The Commission is a joint agency of the cities of Farmington Hills and Farmington. Its purpose is to foster a healthy community by focusing on our most precious resources, our children and our families. The Commission is made up of dedicated volunteers and community activists from all walks of life. Working together with other groups and agencies in the community, the Commission creates and promotes programs with one goal: to encourage a supportive environment where children, youth, and families are happy, healthy, educated, and safe, and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. The Commission is hosting this show to bring our focus and our activities to the community. We welcome your input and involvement. You can learn more about the Commission at our website at www.cyf.us. You can email us at cyf@farmlive.org. I'm Mary Mullison. Welcome to CYF Spotlight. In a 2003 National Survey of Children's Health found that 87% of the parents reported feeling very close to their children. Kids who have a 15-minute conversation with their parents each day are 67% less likely to try marijuana than those who do not. On today's CYF show, we're going to talk about ways to help improve any parent-child relationship. Our guest is Dr. Laura Hutchison, a professor of the Michigan School of Professional Psychology right here in Farmington Hills. She also specializes in child and play therapy. Thank you for being with us, Laura. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, first and foremost, why is it important to have a good relationship with your child?
I believe that a solid relationship with your children is the foundation to any family. And if you have a strong relationship with your children, then they can come and talk to you about anything that comes up, whether it be something at school, whether it be something with their friends, whether it be an alcohol or drug issue. No matter what comes up, they'll be able to come to you and talk to you about those issues. With a solid relationship, you'll be able to have, they'll be able to feel safe and comfortable enough to discuss those issues with you without feeling that something, is too pressing or too difficult to talk to you about if you have those strong relationships.
So you don't want to wait until you have that problem to make the connection. You want to build the foundation first so they have a place to come.
It's way too late. At that point, you want to be able to, you want to have it be open enough so that they feel comfortable at any time to come to you and talk. Also, just the basic family connection. If you have a close relationship with your children, that's, it's so important to your family and how everyone feels in the family. If you all can, work together about any issue that comes up for the family, it's so much easier if the strong relationships are there.
It would make it more fun, even doing things like choosing where to go on a vacation or anything like that.
Or even as simple as going out to dinner.
Right. Yeah, well, that can be
that can be a challenge for any family. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
I agree that there are many challenges, and very small, very large. It'd be maybe good to have that good relationship for the small challenges so that when the big ones come along, because they always tend to, you're ready, you know what the relationship is, you know what the procedure is between you and your child?
Exactly.
Okay. So what causes, you touched on a couple of little different things, what causes primary problems in most families? Well,
I think a lot of times, and this is true for everybody, that we just get so busy and wrapped up in all the things we need and have to do that we forget about our basic relationships and what's important at home. It's getting to to even just to work, to school, all let alone all the extra activities that we try to fit in. Sometimes it's really difficult to find time to just nurture the relationship and take time out just to be with each other rather than trying to do things together. I think that's a lot of times, what happens. We just get really busy. We're as parents in today's society, we want so much for our children. We want to give them every opportunity. We want to, have them be the best they can at, a sport or an instrument or, at school. That we get so caught up in all those things, which they are very important things. But I think sometimes what happens is that all the other things get pushed aside, and we forget about the foundations of just being a happy family and loving each other and having fun.
I have 3 children, and we always call it a patchwork because one of us is dropping one off, and the other one, are you going to come pick up? Are you going to do this? So we're never able to do things all in a solid group, and when we are, it's like a moment of grace.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Do you find that many people are having that trouble?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think that we're all, with the economy, with everything that's going on, I think it's really tricky to kind of figure out how to fit those moments in. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about in the article that I wrote was, how can we do it realistically? We're not going to be able to, say we're going to spend hours on end with our children every day. I mean, that's not going to happen. So what can we do that would work? That we can fit in, that doesn't compromise the rest of our schedule, which is important. It's important for the kids to have activities. Obviously, it's important for them to do well in school. We have to get ourselves to work. We have to go grocery shopping. All those things have to get done. But how do we do them? And also find time to, I guess, strengthen up those relationships with our children.
That would be the hard thing. I know that in our family with everybody going different directions, and it's awfully hard to say, no, you can't be in this, no,
Sure.
you can't do this, I have to go to work, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. Saying no is always a difficult thing to do. Do you think that's important sometimes, though, to build the other strengthening things for your family?
I think, it's all about balance and trying to figure out how, what is too much for your child and what is too much for your family. And that is an individual, like one, a certain family, maybe one activity per child is enough. Maybe, another family can handle a lot more. It just really depends, on the child and on the family.
So many families that you see in your practice, mm-hmm. are they overscheduled in this way?
Some of them are and some of them aren't. It varies. I think one of the things that I've noticed, especially in the last few years, is families are not in as many activities as I think they were a few years ago. I think mainly due to the economy and the expense of the extra activities. It's backing off a little bit and getting it. So I find a little bit of a balance in that sense. With maybe one parent, maybe it was a dual income home and now it's not. The extra stuff needs to kind of go out. So I found a little bit of that, not as much maybe as when I first started about 10 years ago in my private practice, that now it seems like that's a little bit toning down, but there's always exceptions with families that are way overbooked. Probably I don't see a lot of those families because they're probably too overbooked to go to therapy, or at least they think they are. But for the most part, I think it just depends on the family and how they can balance it.
Well, I think you touched on another stressor that's coming along these days with the economy and with people being out of work and things. So what you're saying is there's a little bit of a positive to that.
I think there is, just because we're having to maybe go a little bit more back to basics on some things, that we can't necessarily have all maybe all the TV channels that we have on the TV. We put down made more decisions to back things off, like cable or vacations, to maybe fancier places, and maybe now we're just gonna hang around the Metro Detroit area and just find things that we can do here together as a family. Just a lot of things like that, just simple things that I think maybe have toned things down a little bit more for families.
Instead of being this big web of stuff, people are pulling things into their home a little bit more.
Right. Instead of like acquiring stuff or spending money on things, we're needing to focus more on what we have.
Yep. So that's a good thing to pull it all in. Now you mentioned an article that you wrote, and I know that you use an acronym to help make things clear in what you're trying to say. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Sure. I wrote a real short article for the Farmington Observer, and I used the acronym PEACE to explain 5 real simple ways to improve your relationship with children. I just figured that would be a nice way for people to get it in their head and be able to remember a way to have a little bit more peace in their family, more of a peaceful relationship with their children. Mm-hmm. So that is the acronym that I chose and that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, let's talk about each one sort of individually then, we're talking about peace. Peace in the family is something we definitely want to have because we want to have that peaceful place that those kids can come back to. Also for the adults.
Oh, definitely.
Make life a little bit better.
If we're constantly arguing and in a conflict with our children, it makes it difficult for us, which then in turn makes it difficult for them, because then we're setting up this whole very stressful situation for everybody. If mom and dad can't be calm and relaxed and feeling like they're having a good relationship with their children, then then there's no way that's going to form for the children. Yeah, right.
Well, what's the first letter? P.
First letter of peace is P, and P is for play, which I wanted to make first because play, I think, is extremely important for children, for families, for adults, for everybody. I am a play therapist, so I really value and know the value, understand the value of play. And really, even just 5 minutes a day spending with your child of playing can have tremendous benefits. I've seen this with the children I've worked with when I've given this kind of as an assignment to parents. Why don't you just play 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a week, whatever you can get in. It's funny when we say it like that, you think, oh, that will be easy, but then you go through a day and try to fit it in. It can sometimes be very tricky. And I say that myself. I have 2 kids, and sometimes it's really hard, and as much as I value it. And it's not just, go over there and play. It's a playing with, where the child is the director of the play, where you let them pick the activity and you play with them. You get to see, you gotta get invited into their world. This is very similar to what I do as a play therapist, but I think it can be very valuable, because it's very valuable in me building my relationship with my clients. It's extremely valuable for parents to build it with their children, and you can kind of see where they're at. The importance is not to direct it, because you want to see where they're going to go and what they're going to do with that. Of course, any regular rules apply for family rules. Obviously, they can't hurt you, they can't hurt themselves, they're not breaking toys intentionally. If there's certain things that aren't allowed in your home, of course, those I'll still. But maybe a little bit freer than maybe you would normally do, or it's not an educational experience. You're not trying to teach them something during this time. You're not trying to it's not a lesson in manners. You have to kind of let yourself go a little bit. Maybe if they introduce you to an idea, if you need to be the fairy princess, you become the fairy princess or the shopkeeper, or most often the villain. Kids love to put their kid, and of course this is with younger kids, those types of roles are with younger kids. With older kids, it's, whatever, if it's a board game, or maybe even, getting on that, computer system that, maybe you don't really necessarily want to, whatever they're kind of into, geared towards their age. But really just those times of just letting yourself, be in their world, it can be really, really amazing at how much you can just really just strengthen the relationship of being able to be together and play together.
Do you find that adults feel that a little awkward doing this?
I find a lot. It's mixed. Some adults are extremely, and I always feel kind of sad for the adult and the child when they can't kind of get into that playful role. Once they kind of feel that they can, it's amazing kind of what shifts for the kid. I know that a lot of times adults are so used to being in our roles and used to be, to let that kind of silliness and whatever slide in.
You're very far away from that.
It feels like you're losing control, and sometimes that's very scary as a parent or as an adult. But to kind of let that guard down just a little bit and try it out, and maybe if the fantasy play is a little too much, then stick with, more of a board game or something like that, out of, you could structure it and, well, we could play any of these games, or, if there's something that you're really not going to be comfortable with, I wouldn't pick it, because then that's not going to help either. I mean, if you're going to get really frustrated or agitated in that moment, then there's no reason, that's not the play I'm talking about. I want it to be a fun experience. And that's another reason why, if you only have so much time that you can allow to it, let the child know that. We have 15 minutes, we have 5 minutes, we have an hour, whatever you have. Let them know that's what they can expect from you right now.
So that helps for the ending.
That helps for the ending, and I always
know that there's a closing place.
Right, and I always give a child like a 5 minute or 1 minute, depending on the time, warning, so that they know that the time is coming to an end. to kind of structure that for them.
Because you don't want to make that a negative time either. Finally, mom's sitting down and playing with you for 10 minutes, but then she's gone again and off doing whatever she's doing.
Right.
Do you find that's a little
It can be really
awkward?
It can be really hard, especially the first few times, because they're not sure if it will ever happen again. So to remind the child, like, oh, we can do this tomorrow. We'll be able to do it next week, or this weekend I know I'll have some time. So
this is building that foundation, building the expectation,
right.
how they know they're going to have a connection to you.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, exactly, consistency. And, if at all possible, I think it's important to kind of do it one-on-one with each child, if you can. But if you can't, do it as a family, at least, to get that in. But I think that one-on-one time, even if it's, and if it can't be a play as in sit down, if you can do it like, okay, well, we've got 5 minutes, right now in the car when we're waiting for another sister to be picked up, or those types of things. You find these, treasured moments, just to be able to get them, connected, and try to think of any of those times that you can squeeze it in. Because I think, a lot of times maybe, one person's playing on their iPhone and the other person's, playing on a DS in the back seat, and all those things that can happen. Why don't we turn things off and, play I Spy together, or play a game together, or something like that you can kind of squeeze those moments in.
Actually, the riding in the car times, I remember all of those. You can sing, you can talk, you can tell stories, you can do all that, where, maybe if they're not in that confined space, you don't have that connection to
I
them.
know research does have said that one of the most valuable times to talk to your children is when you're kind of trapped in the car. The other thing that's really interesting about that is that they say that children maybe are more at ease to talk with you because you don't have to have the eye contact, and so they can kind of feel a little bit safer because maybe they're in the back seat and maybe you won't have that reaction because you're driving, so they might be able to say something that maybe they were a little bit nervous to say before. So those are perfect times.
I hadn't thought about that before, but it has happened.
I don't even know where that research came from, but I know it would. I remember reading it somewhere.
It's definitely happened. Okay, what's the next thing we're going to talk about?
E is for emotion, and I think it's really important. I think a lot of times we don't even think about how to foster our children's emotional intelligence, and how to listen to that aspect for them. We just react to it, which of course is a natural thing for us to do. That as the temper tantrum's happening, or the tears are flowing, that our own emotions come up. But what I have found is that if you can, in that moment, reflect what that emotion is for the child, that you can a lot of times just nip the whole conversation, nip a lot of it in the bud, make it go to the end a lot faster. Because if, let's say, a child's really upset about having to leave somewhere, you can always say, I understand that you're very upset about that. I can hear that you're really angry. I know that you're really sad. Whatever that whatever emotion that is going on, that it does a couple of things. One, it gives the child a word for that emotion, which sometimes I've been pretty amazed at how children don't have words for their feelings. Then the other thing is that it, with any of us, we want to be heard. Just like if we're talking to a friend on the phone and we're like talking about something that's very emotional, if they go right to the trying to solve the problem for us, it doesn't really help us, because what we want to be able to know is that we're being heard, and that someone acknowledges our emotion, that someone acknowledges how we're feeling. And when you can get that feedback of someone understanding how you feel, then it kind of helps de-escalate the situation. So when a child knows that you understand that they're feeling really sad and angry, sometimes that will help in those moments to be able to help move on to the next thing that the family needs to do, rather than sticking in that temper tantrum or in that emotion.
Of course, there's always the positive emotions too that you want to pull in.
Oh, sure, definitely.
And kind of bring out and highlight.
Right, recognizing, wow, that's really amazing how you're being so loving with your sister right now, and we really appreciate that. Those moments as well, definitely.
All right, and A, this one that I read here. A is for adult time.
Yes.
What an important thing, honestly. You forget about it because you put yourself lowest on the list.
Oh, I think that's a huge factor for so many parents, is that, we are so focused on what we need to do for our children, and for very good reasons. I mean, I think they do need us. We are their world. But at the same time, if we don't take care of ourselves, we won't be able to take care of them. We won't be able to have a strong family. So it's really important to take care of your own needs, knowing that you get enough sleep, you are eating correctly, you're getting enough exercise, that you do have time to talk with your friends, or go out with the girls, or hang out, have a date night with your husband. Those types of things are really important. They're really important for yourself, and they're also really important to model to your children that, it's important to take care of yourself. It's important to, do these basic, take care of your basic needs, because if, we are, such a model for our children, and we might be saying, okay, you need to eat, three healthy meals a day with a healthy snack somewhere in there, and you need to, make sure you get enough sleep, and you need to do this, but yet, are we doing it ourselves? And, as a mother of a 4 and a 1-year-old, I can say no, that I'm not, and I need to read this over and over again myself, because I think it's really important to be able to do that, because I know that if I'm not in balance, either I'm getting sick more often, and so that, then I'm not gonna be able to be there for my children, or, just tired and crabby and cranky, those things do affect. And so if we're able to take care of ourselves, we can do the relationship with our children can be much stronger.
Certainly, if you're emotional or tired, you get over emotional and cannot answer the emotions of the child well. So
right, sure, you'll be coming much more from your own reaction to your own frustration, right. Your own, which is natural. We're all going to do that. I mean, and it's fine, but to try to keep it to the minimum, and be able to, when you do react in those ways, be able to have the next reaction be a little bit more reflective of what.
I think there are a lot of people that lose themselves too in their children.
Oh,
where
sure.
That must be actually a little pressure on the children to be the only thing for them. And if people can pull back and have their own time and their own friends and their own things, that's got to be a little bit easier for the whole piece of the group. I
definitely think that's especially true when children get to more of the, middle school, high school age, where the individual separation is starting to come out. They do need to know that mom and dad, or if a divorce is happening, when they're worried about a parent being on their own. I think that's really important for parents to take care of themselves and have their own needs met, and whatever that is, whether it's seeking therapy for themselves or having whatever it needs to be, so that not all the pressure is put on the child, that the adult is able to sustain themselves by, because that does happen. It does happen, especially when a family trauma arises. It's really important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and that the children have their needs met, but maybe pulling in extra resources such as a therapist or a grandmother or whoever that can be, to be able to kind of support help support the family.
Mm-hmm. Okay. C is for consistency.
Yes, which is a big one. Big C for consistency. It's really important that when, especially young children, they don't really have much of a concept of time. So to be able to kind of structure and help them understand what's going on in their world, with consistency really helps, so that you can structure their day structure their day in the sense that they know kind of what's happening next. Have some type of routine. It doesn't have to be, okay, at 9:15 we do this. I'm not talking about that type of structured routine. Some families do need that, and some children do need that. But for the most part, we need to be a little bit more flexible, and that just having that consistency within how you relate to them too. That you can switch from, like, let's say, if you are switching from an activity, and letting them know, like we talked about, with the playtime, letting them know, okay, in 5 minutes we're gonna be leaving. Having them be warned, and having that consistency of knowing, okay, I'm not gonna just be pulled away from, whatever I'm doing. Just like we wouldn't want to if we were working on something, on the computer, or talking with a friend. We wouldn't be like, hey, we're going now. That's not respectful of us, and yet we do it all the time to our children, and thinking about how that can impact. Just that consistency and respect right there can really go a long way in easing transitions for the family, easing relationships and how they feel together.
So that can kind of go both ways as well, so that the parents can expect some consistency from the kids too.
Sure, exactly. The other thing that we hear all the time, and I think most any parent's guilty of, but to really work on, if you say we're going to do something, do it. If that means, if you say, okay, in 5 minutes, if you don't stop that, we're going to go home immediately. Don't ever use that, as a discipline if you're really not going to leave. Think of something else. Have something else in your back pocket, so that you don't get caught in that, now we're at a family function and in 5 minutes, and then you don't leave because, you can't. And, it's really, really easy to fall into.
It is.
We all are there. But that's the one thing that's kind of important, to think, okay, well, if something happens, when we're here, or if something, have a few of things that that might be a better solution, like you won't be able to go soccer practice later, or if that's not an option, because that they need to be there, you won't be able to play with a friend this weekend. Of course, the younger the child is, the more important it is that it's an immediate consequence. So trying to figure out something that will work. When maybe it's just even saying, okay, you're gonna have to go sit over in the corner, and have a little bit of a timeout for a few minutes.
So you need kind of a toolkit.
You do, and it needs to be flexible, right? And sometimes, if it's a big one, and the big ones that using the big cameras can be really successful. When it's like, yeah, we are leaving the water park now, we're going. If you can really do that, if you've just spent a fortune on getting in the water park, you're not going to be leaving. So why even use that? I mean, we hear it all the time, or in the shopping, or if you're in the middle of shopping, are you going to really leave? Yeah, maybe you can.
I have.
Right. So, and sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. It just depends on, but to make sure you're really going to, whatever you put out there, make sure it's something that you're going to be able to follow through and be consistent with. The same thing goes with if you promise that that you are going to do something, that you go ahead and say, we're going to go out for ice cream tonight, or I'm going to get you this because of, of whatever. Make sure you do it, because if you don't follow through, why will they continue to follow through? So being a good role model in that sense, and being consistent.
That makes a lot of sense. E is for ending. That seems like a good one.
Yeah, E is for endings. It ends the word peace, and E is for endings. So really what I wanted to, with this one, I think it's really important, and we also often lose sight of the wonderful things our kids do and the wonderful people that they are, and to value that each and every day, and to be able to end every day with at least saying one thing that they have done right. Because we get so focused in maybe all the things that they're doing wrong, or all the things that we're frustrated with, or especially if there's a behavioral challenge that is happening, to really focus on something that they're doing good, to focus on that positive. And who wouldn't want to end the day with wanting to know things that they did right? I know I've been doing this with my son since he was an infant, just kind of going over, I'm really proud to be your mom. I really like the way that you helped your sister out today. Those types, just really simple things. Sometimes they're like, wow, it's really great you brushed your teeth today. Sometimes it's as simple as that. But just being able to focus on something good, because so often we're caught in, even ourselves are caught in that, as parents, caught in that negative loop. And for us to kind of get out of it, to be able to remember we have really great kids and to value them.
Maybe to even give you an excuse to have to think back and find those kernels.
Exactly. Sometimes I've given parents an assignment to be able to write down 5 things. You have a notebook and write down 5 things each day that at the end of the day they can go over. And because it is, a lot of times by the time people are coming into therapy, they're so frustrated, and they're so, they feel like they've tried everything, and maybe they have, and that sometimes just switching that focus from all the negative stuff that's going on, to the positive things that they can value about their children, really helps refocus and helps change the relationship, just in that.
So that builds the foundation to then be able to recognize other things. Maybe, you're going to maybe buy a certain car and you start to see them everywhere. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, right.
Same idea with that. So you think my assignment is to find these 5 good things. There's nothing good going on in my life right now, but then you start noticing those things and they pop out.
Exactly. It's switching. Yeah, it's really a real basic, like switching your cognitions.
Right.
Exactly. And some of these a lot of these ideas that I've talked about in the article are from different play therapists that I've worked with, different play therapists that I've trained with. And that one in particular is from a gentleman named Scott Revere, and he's in Louisiana. He's done a positive parenting program. So I've taken some of his ideas and woven them into my practice and catered them to, the kids in my family of how I like to work with it. So, these a lot of these ideas are borrowed from other professionals.
Well, that's all right. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I think it's really important not to, especially with how busy we are and trying to be, parents. Just getting that information out there and sharing that with others, I think is important.
Can you summarize this really quickly? Just go through your PEACE acronym again and tell us just really quickly to conclude.
Sure.
To give an ending to our program today.
Sure, definitely. So PEACE is the acronym for helping to strengthen and improve relationships with your children, to be able to have that solid foundation where children can feel that they can come to their parents and talk, and also to ease the stress and anxiety that we all have as parents in our lives, and trying to make everything go together and be the parent we want to be for our children. So for acronym PEACE, it starts with play, and having that time as a family just to play, either one-on-one with your children or as a whole family, whatever you can kind of get in, to have that time to be able to really reconnect and let them be able to be the director of that, so you can kind of get into their world, because so many times we're trying to do different things for them. And E is for emotions, being able to reflect that emotion for them, so that they, one, have the word for the feeling, for whatever they're experiencing at the time, and two, so that they also can feel heard and feel understood, that we understand that they're having a really hard time right now with feeling that they're not going to be able to get this toy at the store, but that this is how it's going to be, but letting them know that we understand how they feel. And A is for adult time, and that's so important for us as adults and us as parents to take that time and be able to nurture ourselves, whether it be the basics of eating, sleeping, quiet time, that we have that as well, and to model that to our children, because if we're not able to take care of ourselves, we're really going to have a hard time taking care of our family. And C is for consistency. The main point there is to make sure that if we say we're going to do something, that we follow through. If we, if we're going to use a discipline, make sure that it's something that we can follow through on. If we're going to reward our children or ourselves or our families with something, make sure it's something that we can follow through on, and that it does come to be. And E is for endings, making sure that we end each day, each time we're with our children, with a message that they know that we value them as people, that we respect them, and to maybe point out something in detail of what maybe something that they're doing really great and that we're really proud of them. That helps them, of course, and it also helps us refocus who they are as kids and who we are as a family.
Well, thank you, Dr. Laura Hutchison. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much for having
and
me.
helping us kind of put it all together. And peace in our families is I know my husband, the kids ask him what he wants for his birthday, and he says a peace in the family. So
sure.
Perhaps this will give us something to kind of give us a map to get to that
And it's a
spot.
continual process. It's never ending. You just keep on working at it.
Absolutely, that's a push toward peace. We like that very much.
That's right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us at CYF Spotlight. We hope you join us again.